This video is sponsored by Classic Football Shirts, the best place to get your classic and vintage football shirts. To get cheap retro Palace shirts, click the link in the description below. And for an extra 10% off, use the code CFSPJ10 at checkout. Hello and welcome to the Crystal Palace podcast. I'm Alfonso Greenbrook, and in today's podcast, I'll be looking over the game against Manchester United by bringing you my match review, player rankings and my man of the match. As well as this, I'm also going to bring you interviews with Roy Hodgson, Alexander Sørloth and Andros Townsend after the game. So let's begin. A brave battling performance ultimately yielded no points to Palace, as the wait for a Premier League win over Manchester United goes on. Both teams looked to assert themselves in the opening exchanges, with an early Palace corner resulting in James Tompkins firing an improvised overhead effort across goal and wide. Seconds later the ball was looping into the Eagles area and onto the head of Alexis Sanchez, but a superb Wayne Hennessy stop denied the Chilean the game's opener. The fast start was rewarded on 10 minutes when Christian Benteke, who'd been lively since kick-off, did superbly to hold up the ball and square for Andros Townsend. The Eagles' number 10 took aim from the edge of the area and saw his effort deflected beyond David De Gea. On 16 minutes, Alexander Sørloth outmuscled his opponent, cut in from the left and fizzed a low effort at the near post, but David De Gea was live to the danger and got down quickly to smother it away. The remainder of the first half passed by without any major incident. Palace defended bravely, swarming any United player who ventured within the range of the Holmesdale Road End's goal, stopping them getting a shot off. Palace flew out of the traps for the second 45, and it wasn't long before their lead was doubled. Quick thinking from Jeffrey Slupp saw Patrick van Aanholt played in down the left-hand side. He steadied himself and ripped in an effort at the near post with David De Gea frozen. Chris Smalling halved the lead minutes later when he was found free at the back post to nod beyond Wayne Hennessy. However, Palace responded positively and took the game to their visitors from the restart. Wan-Bissaka saw a looping cross nearly wrong-foot De Gea, but the goalkeeper reacted to claw the ball over his crossbar. Wan-Bissaka continued to impress and worked tirelessly on the right flank, denying United's players space off the ball and bobbing forward in support of the attacks in possession. A beautifully held up cross found Benteke's head on 70 minutes, but it was just too high for the forward, who saw his effort loop over the roof of David De Gea's net. The Eagles were forced time and time again to throw bodies on the line. A goal line clearance, a last-ditch tackle, the defence worked hard to keep United out, but the luck ran out on 75 minutes. A deflected Sanchez effort rebounded off the crossbar to Romelu Lukaku, and a striker managed to work out an angle to fire low into the net for 2-2. Not to be disheartened, Palace threw themselves back at United from kick-off. Townsend charged at substitute Luke Shaw and set up a cross for Benteke, but a world-class save from David De Gea kept the scores level. Sørloth in particular ran himself into the ground and then ran some more in a pursuit for a winner for the Eagles, but it wasn't to be for Palace. United struck late, too late for a response. A clearance fell to Nemanja Matic, who controlled the ball and lashed a long-range effort beyond Wayne Hennessy, a minute into the 3 minutes added on by the fourth official, sealing the 3 points for the Red Devils. Crystal Palace were dealt a huge blow in their bid for Premier League survival on Monday night, as Manchester United came from 2 goals down to win 3-2 at Selhurst Park. Nemanja Matic struck the winner in the first minute of injury time after goals from Chris Smalling and Romelu Lukaku had cancelled out strikes from Andros Townsend and Patrick van Aanholt for Palace. It was harsh on the Eagles, who deserved more for their efforts, having fought hard throughout the game and given Jose Mourinho's men an uncomfortable night in South London. But what did we learn from the game as United prevailed in SE25? Here are 5 things. Number 1. A fast start. Unlike against Tottenham, Crystal Palace were aggressive from the off and tried to get on the front foot. And Manchester United boss Jose Mourinho admitted that the Eagles caught his side by surprise with their formation and an aggressive start. It certainly worked as they took the lead on the 8th minute, with Andros Townsend curling the ball home via a deflection to put the Eagles in front. United looked uneasy early on and Selhurst Park was rocking throughout the first half, with Palace deservedly in front at the break. Number 2. A rising star. Crystal Palace may have unearthed a gem in Aaron Wan-Bissaka. The Eagles Academy product has played just 2 games with Palace and has hardly put a foot wrong. Coming up against the quality of Tottenham and Manchester United, he has not been phased and has more than held his own, with the 20-year-old impressing again against Manchester United. He has now played 180 minutes in the Premier League and has arguably been the man of the match for Palace in both games, making a number of interceptions, challenges and clearances. He surely must keep his place for the trip to face Chelsea on Saturday. Number 3. Benteke's improved showing. The Belgium international was more than a handful for the United defenders, using his physical presence to disrupt them and drag them out of position. His hold-up play was much improved and he looked more comfortable playing as part of a front two alongside Alexander Sørloth, with signs of a developing partnership between the two. Together they caused United problems and helped the Eagles to offer more than a threat, with Benteke unlucky not to score with a couple of headers. But it was just not in the attacking sense that Benteke was much improved. He also done his bit defensively too, with several defensive headers from corners and a fine clearance off the line to deny United. Number 4. Quick thinking. When Crystal Palace won a free kick early in the second half, just inside the Manchester United half, United players simply switched off. But Jeffrey Slupp and Patrick van Aanholt didn't, and the two combined to create the second goal. Slupp was alert to Van Aanholt's forward run and perfectly timed the through ball for the former Sunderland man to run onto and score. Unfortunately for Palace, they weren't able to hold on to their 2-goal advantage for long, with United reducing the deficit soon after to get a foothold into the game and change the momentum. And number 5, records are there to be broken. Going into the game, there were records to be continued and records to be broken. Both sides had good records when playing on a Monday, with United having the best record in the Premier League since its inception in 1992. But there were also some ducks to be broken, with Palace not winning the game without Wilfried Zaha in the team this season, and not beating Manchester United in 17 attempts in the Premier League. That looked like it might be ending after 50 minutes with Palace 2-0 up, having scored their first goals of the season from open play with Wilfried Zaha not in the side. However, United fought back to win the game 3-2, coming back from 2 goals down for the first time in the top flight since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, and in doing so they inflicted Palace's first ever defeat in the Premier League from 2 goals up. So I'm now going to move on to the player ratings, but before I start, don't forget you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Crystal Palace for all the latest Palace news. And also, if you're on Facebook, do feel free to join our Facebook group, which is a really great place to join in with discussions, also to share your opinion with other fans, and also a great place to keep up to date with all the latest news, where you can also post news articles you find online. So if you are someone like myself who likes to get involved, likes to read what other fans think of a game, about a player, about a transfer, or you just want to comment on what someone else has said, then of course, much like a forum, do join the Facebook group, because it's a really great place to connect with other Palace fans. And much like the Twitter and Facebook pages, it's also a great place to catch up with all the latest news. So if you are someone who wants to keep up to date, albeit whether it be transfers or whether it be just latest news articles, then of course do head over, follow us on both Twitter and Facebook, but also head over to the Facebook group as well. Now, another great place to share your opinion is in the YouTube comments. So if you are listening to the podcast on YouTube, then do feel free to drop a comment below the video with your player ratings, where you rate the players' performances from 1 to 10, with of course 10 being the best. And even if you don't want to do that, and you know, if you're a Man United fan, of course you're going to be ecstatic that you won this game. But whether you're a Palace or United fan, even if you don't want to do your player ratings, then do comment below your views of the game. You know, whether you thought that at 2-0 up, Palace were going to go on and win the game, and whether you do think, as is the Palace way, you actually did think that at 2-0 up we were eventually going to lose the game. So do comment below your views about that. And the main reason for that is obviously I can go back to the video and see what the listeners thought about the game. But also any United or any Palace fans who come to the podcast, you know, rather than them just listening to my opinion in the podcast, they can also read the comments section and hear what other fans, not necessarily me or themselves, but they can also read and, you know, sort of have an idea of what other fans thought about the game. So if you are someone who likes to get involved, or once again likes to have discussions and read what others have to say, then of course do drop a comment below in the YouTube comments. Now if you do want to follow any of these social media pages, and of course do join the Facebook group, then do check all links that will be in the description below. But before I go on to give you my player ratings, I just want to give you a sort of summary of the game. You know, I normally do this after the player ratings, but before I go on to talk about the player ratings, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the game, and then if you want a full summary of the game, then of course go later on in the podcast and you can hear it then. But to be honest, you know, I've seen a lot of videos, I've seen a lot of, you know, Twitter basically was in meltdown after the game. I can understand people's frustrations, but personally for me, you know, we're not relegated yet and we're not safe yet, so there's no need to go full out there and saying we're going to get relegated because we lost the game to Man United. Yes, I can understand, you know, people getting angry, and I personally was very angry when we gave away a 2-goal lead, but what you've got to remember is United, they've got so many quality players. They were basically playing 3 strikers. You've got your wingers. They've got their fullbacks coming up. They had the likes of Pogba and Matic in the midfield. So really, basically, they were just going all-out attack on us, and eventually our defence, as good as it played throughout the beginning and middle of the game, obviously it eventually collapsed towards the end. But, you know, I can understand people being angry, but there's no reason for people yet to say that we're relegated, because if you look towards the end of the season, you've got 7, I'm not going to say winnable games, but there's 7 games which we should be looking to win. So there are 7 games there which, hopefully, if we get a few wins there, maybe 3 wins and a few draws here, that will see us safe. So before we are mathematically relegated, then we need to actually have the faith that we can actually stay up. But also we've got to remember that we're in a sticky situation, we've got loads of injuries, so we just basically need to be balanced and just consider all things. But to be honest, rather than being angry, which quite a lot of people were, and I've seen a few YouTube videos especially where, you know, people were quite angry. Personally for me, I suppose the word to use is heartbroken, devastated. Not because obviously we lost the game, because personally for me it was inevitable that we were going to lose to United, but not in the way we did. You know, I didn't think that we were going to be 2-0 up, 50 minutes gone, and we were just going to give away our 2-goal lead and then eventually concede in the last few minutes. So personally for me, I wouldn't have been surprised if we lost the game, I wouldn't have been angry, but it's just the manner we lost the game in terms of just putting in such a good performance, then just giving away sloppy goals. And of course there's nothing you can do about Matic's goal, but the point being we gave away a 2-goal lead, which is of course very upsetting. But to be honest, you know, talk about the positives from the game. It was I'm really proud of the performance, because I thought the performance overall was superb. All of the players done their job. Arguably you could say Hennessy didn't, but I'll go on to that later. But arguably I think the whole team put in a really good performance. And to be honest, the game hinged on their first goal. So United's goal, obviously once it went to 2-1, you could think, okay, yeah, they're going to put a bit of pressure on now. They've got a bit of confidence. And certainly that's what they done. You know, we were so confident once we scored the first goal in the first half. Once United scored their first goal to make it 2-1, they grew in confidence. They just basically put 3 strikers on the pitch. They put their fullbacks up. They put their midfielders up. So basically they were playing all-out attack. And eventually, because they scored that first goal, they got that confidence. And eventually they went on to score the other ones. But another thing I suppose you could say is the fact that we, you know, gave away that 2-goal lead is maybe because of the fatigue and a few players getting tired. So personally for me, I think some of the blame you've got to put on Hodgson. I'm not going to blame him for the loss, of course. But like he said, obviously the players put in a good performance. But maybe if he made subs sooner, so bringing on Riedewald once we got that second goal to pack out the midfield and stop the midfield being overrun by Pogba and Matic. Maybe if Hodgson had brought on the subs earlier, then of course it would have been better. You know, I would have liked to see Rakip, because he's played really well for the under-23s. Bring him on, put him in the midfield, bring Riedewald on, just pack out the midfield and hope we can hold on to the end of the game. But in truth, you could ask Hodgson to bring on options off the bench, but in truth we haven't actually got that much, because, you know, our squad is decimated by injuries. You know, there's not enough options for Hodgson to call upon. So realistically, Riedewald, Rakip, maybe are the 2 realistic players we could bring off the bench, but realistically, because of our squad being decimated by injuries, we haven't really got any options off the bench. So you can understand sort of why Hodgson doesn't make a sub. And even if he wants to make one sub, he at least should have done it after that first goal, the second goal we scored, or maybe the first goal that United scored, just to pack out the midfield and stop us getting overrun, which ultimately we did. And of course the fatigue did catch up with us. But personally for me, you know, I'm just going to finish now before I go on to the player ratings, but I'm just going to say that you really cannot fault the effort of the players. You could fault the fact that the players gave away the 2-goal lead, but you can't fault their efforts, because throughout the whole game they fought valiantly, and overall I think it was a really good performance. I'm not going to say we were unlucky to lose, but just the way we lost once again is really devastating. But obviously I'm going to now move on to the player ratings, starting in goal with Wayne Hennessy, who I am going to give a 6. 1 fumble from a Paul Pogba cross, but no trouble apart from that. Left stranded for Chris Smalling's goal back. Got down low to deny Pogba, beaten low by United's second. Raced out to deny Juan Mata well. Absolutely no chance saving Matic's sensational winner. So Wayne Hennessy here, I've given him a 6, and this is a player who's up for debate. You know, loads of people blaming him for the game, loads of people saying he's crap, but what you've got to consider is actually, you know, 10 games prior to this, he's actually been playing really well, and the last sort of 2 or 3 games, he's sort of going on a downward form. So before we start scapegoating Hennessy, you know, it wasn't a terrible performance from him, but he certainly could have done more in the game. So before we scapegoat him, we've got to consider that actually it wasn't a terrible performance. Yes, he could have done better, but it wasn't terrible. And obviously the fact that actually he started to pick up form before this game. But in terms of what he'd done in the game, you know, I'm not going to talk too much about the goals, because I personally think there's not much to blame on him, purely because the defence was unorganised and that's why we conceded. But in terms of a few good things he done in the game, you know, there was a Paul Pogba cross in the first half. He obviously stumbled at it, and if you look back at the replays, he went to catch it. Maybe the ball was wet or whatever, but it went straight through his hands, which is obviously not great to see from a keeper. But apart from that, in the first half especially, there was no real trouble, and that's purely because, once again, Palace were defending resolutely, and because of that, because we were so solid at the back, United had no chances, which basically meant that Hennessy wasn't really tested. In terms of Chris Smalling's goal, people could criticise him, because if you look back at the replays, he just stood still. He didn't move on his goal line, didn't try to make a save by diving either way. But personally, for me, the fact that James Tompkins, I think it was Chris Smalling and maybe Lukaku who were both onside. If Tompkins hadn't have played them offside or played them onside, it would have been offside. The goal wouldn't have counted, and maybe that would have been better. But for me, yes, it would have been nice to see Hennessy have a little bit more movement. But personally, for me, the main fault for that goal goes on Tompkins, because there's no reason why he should be playing him offside. So really, for me, although Tompkins is normally good at his positional play, in that situation he was. So personally, for me, I don't think there's really much blame on Hennessy there. Obviously, there was another good save where Hennessy got down to his left. He denied Pogba. Great save there once again. And then, obviously, Lukaku's goal for the second. People will blame Hennessy for that. But if you look back at it, because we were defending so deep, and because there were so many players around Lukaku, no one decided to take the ball off him, which is why the defence is at fault. But also, because there were so many men in the box, because we were parking the bus, it basically meant that Hennessy couldn't see the goal coming, because there was I think I probably counted about 4 or 5 players in front of Hennessy, which was blocking his sideline. So understandably, once Lukaku got the ball through, you can understand him, or you can understand Hennessy not being able to see it, purely because the amount of players were around him. And once again, that just goes back to positional play, because there were so many players who were not in their right positions and they didn't close down Lukaku. That's why we conceded that goal. There was another one as well from Juan Mata. Great save there. Obviously, Juan Mata threw on goal. Hennessy once again made himself big, rather than sticking his hands out and obviously taking Juan Mata out, probably for a penalty. He kept his hands by his side, put his chest there, and made a save there. So once again, decision making from Hennessy was good in that situation. And in terms of Matic's goal, no goalkeepers saving that. We saw the amount of saves that David De Gea made in the game, but I'm sure that if that was against David De Gea, he also probably wouldn't have saved it, purely because of the power, the dip, and just the accuracy of the sensational winner, which it was for United. But going back to that goal, if you look back at the replays, which I've done for this game so many times, as much as it pains me to do so, it looks like Hennessy almost got a hand to it, in terms of he went the right way to stretch, and he stretched his, I believe it was his left hand or his right hand, whatever hand it was, he stretched it and he almost got the ball. But I think even if he did get a touch to it, it probably would have gone in anyway, purely because of the power that was in the shot. So Wayne Hennessy here, I've given him a 6, although many people might give him a 5 for his performance. I've given him the benefit of the doubt because he made 1 or 2 decent saves, which obviously kept us in the first half, which helped us get the momentum into the start of the second. Ultimately, we conceded them 2 goals, midway through the second half, conceded at last minute 1. Personally, for me, I'm not really going to blame Hennessy like other people have done. So personally, for me, I think a 6 is a fair result. And when you consider, the reason I wouldn't give him a 7 because of the saves he made is purely because he was just flapping all over the place. So I'm not going to blame him for the goals. But there were a few times where actually he put our defence under pressure, purely because rather than actually commanding his area, he obviously didn't do that. And of course, we could have potentially got punished from them chances, but ultimately we didn't. So Wayne Hennessy here, do comment below your thoughts about him, whether you do think he was at fault for the goal. But personally for me, I do think a 6 is a fair result. Now to move on to the right back, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who I'm going to give a 9. Kept his place for the second consecutive start. Tricky task against Ashley Young, but stood firm. He looked comfortable in the first half. Got even better as the game went on, a brilliant display. Will keep his place for the weekends easily, standout man. So Aaron Wan-Bissaka here, I've given him a 9, and even though he's 20 years old, he's hardly ever played Premier League football, with this being his second appearance for Palace, but actually he looked like he'd been playing Premier League football for many years, and easily you could say he was probably putting some of the other players to shame in terms of how good his defensive performance was. But like I've said already, I said this last week, but it's great to see an academy player coming through, and obviously we've had to wait a long time for that, but now we've seen someone come through. It's of course great to see him play, but also it's great to see him actually keep his place in the squad for the second consecutive week. Now, in terms of what he had to do in the game, obviously Ashley Young has been playing really well this season, and obviously Wan-Bissaka, he was up against it, you know, with the pace of Ashley Young. I thought he dealt with him really well. He stood firm, stood his ground, and done a really good job defending against him. And also when Rashford came on, you know, because Wan-Bissaka has also got pace to match Rashford, I thought that was a really good battle down that right hand side, and I thought once again that Wan-Bissaka actually came above it and actually was the better player in that battle. In terms of just the overall first half performance, I think you could say he was comfortable, much like the whole team, because we got that early goal and because United weren't really attacking us or weren't really clicking properly. It was really quite easy for, you know, Wan-Bissaka to play, so he was really comfortable in that half. But the main reason I've given him a 9 is just for his second half performance. You know, I probably could have given him a 7 or 8 for his first half performance, but what puts it up to a 9 is just how good he was in the second half. The fact that he was good in the first half, but the fact that he got even better when we were up against it was of course great to see. And you know, I used the word brilliant to sort of describe his display, but that's what it was. It was an absolutely brilliant display from him, and because of how well he played in this game, for me, there's no doubt, because obviously Ward's injured and Fosu-Mensah hasn't played for the last few games, and because Kelly's come back as well, I think personally for me, Fosu-Mensah could come back into the side, but because of Wan-Bissaka playing as well as he did, I personally think he keeps his place for the weekend easily. You know, there's no doubt about it, purely because of he's a standout man, and at the moment, even though he's only played 2 games, you know, we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves, but at the moment he looks to be concrete in that place at right back for himself. But overall, you know, I've looked online, I've seen a few people, you know, their comments about him, and everyone's really impressed, and it's really great to see a youth player, you know, come through at Palace. But personally for me, you know, some of the things just to highlight that people have said, and what I also think myself, is just that he's quality. You know, he originally started his career playing as a winger. He's now been converted to a wing back / right back. Obviously he can still play winger, but he's now primarily defensively, so you know, the fact that he's got that ability to change positions, he's got the pace, got the defensive and attacking and crossing skills, the fact that he's all got that really just shows that actually he's got the quality and the potential to be a very good player. And to be honest, it is quite, for me, it's a really wow factor whenever I see him play, purely because he's only 20 years old, never played Premier League football before, but yet he's shown that he can defend at the top level. He's superb in a tackle, he can actually be strong in the air and actually have a physical battle against some wingers and strikers. So the fact that he's already got that at 20 years old, having never played Premier League football prior to these 2 games, is of course great to see. Another good thing for a right back, you know, Fosu-Mensah is better at this than Joe Ward is, and I suppose Fosu-Mensah is very similar to Wan-Bissaka in this respect, in terms of he's very comfortable on the ball, so he's very good at picking up the ball, whether it's running forward or just crossing the ball or just passing it infield. Whatever it is with the ball, he's very good. And personally for me, obviously Fosu-Mensah is going to go back to United. You know, I personally think he's probably going to stay there now on a permanent thing. You know, he isn't probably going to go out on any more loans, purely because I think it's now or never for him in his United career. And in terms of Joe Ward, yes, he's out of contract. I think Palace will renew his contract, definitely if Roy Hodgson stays on. But personally for me, I think that with these performances, we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves, but because he's played so well in these 2 games, if he can carry on this in the next few games against tough opponents, and he can continue to do that for the rest of the season, I don't see any reason why he couldn't be the right back next season. So Aaron Wan-Bissaka here, the 22-year-old, I've given him a 9, once again for the second consecutive game, an absolutely outstanding performance from him. Now to move on to the centre-back Martin Kelly, who I'm going to give a 7. Back in the side after injury. Good organisation in limiting Alexis Sanchez in the first period. Up against it with Tompkins, with United piling on the pressure to get it back to 2-2. So Martin Kelly here, I've given him a 7, and although it wasn't necessarily the best performance in terms of giving away a 2-goal lead and eventually going on to lose 3-2, personally for me, I think with him coming back from injury, not necessarily being 100%, I personally think he still put in a good performance when you consider all the circumstances. Now, much like Wan-Bissaka, you know, he was tasked with defending Ashley Young. Martin Kelly was primarily Alexis Sanchez, and I think Martin Kelly and James Tompkins done really good in terms of being organised and actually limiting Alexis Sanchez to as little chances as possible in the first period. And you know, when you consider he misplaced so many passes, the most of any player in the game, but most of, if you combine all of Palace's players, Alexis Sanchez had more misplaced passes, which really just shows how well Martin Kelly and James Tompkins did in terms of limiting Alexis Sanchez's chances that he just had to give the ball away because he was trying stuff which really wouldn't come off. Now obviously we were 2-0 up, we went on to concede that first goal, but because of that, because United were 2-0 behind, they kept piling on the pressure, and I thought, even though Tompkins and Kelly were up against it, I still thought they'd done alright in that second period up against it. I thought they'd done alright in terms of limiting United's chances, but the fact that we conceded 2 goals in quite close succession was obviously disappointing. They can't really do much about Nemanja Matic's shot, but personally for me, the 2 goals as well, I talked about it with Wayne Hennessy. I'm not going to blame Hennessy for it, because really for me, the first goal was obviously Tompkins playing the 2 players onside when it wasn't necessary. He shouldn't have necessarily done that. And then the other one is obviously there were so many players in the box that Hennessy couldn't see the ball. And of course, Martin Kelly, James Tompkins were 2 of the players who were standing in that line, which rather than just standing there and trying to block the shot, they should have actually tried to take the ball off Lukaku, or at least try to actually just try and make a block rather than just standing there and making it difficult for Hennessy to see the shot. But to be honest, for me, not really much more to say about Kelly's performance other than the fact that he was just really aggressive in the game, especially in the first half. And really, even though we did concede them 3 goals, you've got to look at the game as a whole. And actually, as a collective, I think the whole team played really well throughout the whole 90 minutes. But especially the defence as well. I thought they defended really well, especially in that first half. And I'm not going to say it was unlucky to concede them 3 goals in the second half. But personally for me, I do think that the performance of the defenders did deserve more than what we ended up getting. Now to move on to the centre-back James Tompkins, who I'm going to give a 7. A rock in the first half. He's been brilliant in recent weeks. Kept it going in the second half with vital blocks, but could do nothing about United's 2 goals. So James Tompkins here, I've given him a 7, and his performance is very similar to Kelly's in the fact that his first half performance was absolutely solid, and I described it as a rock. And, the second half, yes, it was less good in terms of conceding the 3 goals, but I still think he chipped in here and there with vital blocks and headers to, of course, keep it at 2-0 at some points in the game, and of course to stop United with that constant onslaught from actually making it maybe 4, maybe even 5-2. So ultimately, yes, we conceded them 3 goals, but the first half performance was fantastic, and the second half performance we done well to restrict them, not necessarily protecting our lead, but making sure that under that pressure we were getting that onslaught offensively from United. The fact that we managed to restrict it as much as possible was of course great to see. But the thing with Tompkins, and this is something I say every week, is very rare that I give him below a 7, and that's purely because of how brilliant he's been in recent weeks, how consistent he's been. And this was another game here. Yes, he conceded 3 goals, but actually his defensive performance in parts of the game was absolutely superb. And once again, I said it already, but first half, absolutely solid, immaculate. I probably could have given him an 8 or a 9 for that half. And of course, much like loads of players, kept it going in the second half, got us up to 2-0, and ultimately, you could argue he couldn't do nothing about United's goals, but the first one, he obviously played the 2 players onside when he shouldn't have. It wasn't like he could play an offside track. They were way offside, he played them onside. And then the second goal, much like Kelly, if we had a little bit more organisation and had closed down Lukaku, we probably wouldn't have conceded that goal as well. But personally for me, once again, like I've done with a few players, looking online, looking at what the general consensus is about his performance, most people would probably give him a 7 for his performance. Because really, apart from that error where he obviously played the 2 players onside, obviously for Chris Smalling to score, other than that, I thought he was outstanding. He was magnificent, you could say even. So once again, if it wasn't just for that that little error, that little mistake, he probably would have had an absolutely class performance. So personally for me, James Tompkins, only going to put a little bit of blame on him for the 3 goals we conceded, purely because only one of them was directly his fault. But overall, even though we did concede them 3 goals, you've got to bear in mind how good and how just absolutely solid he was throughout the whole game. So personally for me, James Tompkins is 7. Do comment below with your thoughts of his performance, but also whether you do think he was at fault for any of the goals. Now to move on to the left back, Patrick van Aanholt, who I'm going to give an 8. Lively on his toes against Jesse Lingard. Quick thinking to burst through from Jeffrey Slapp's free kick and power a shot past David De Gea for the second goal. So Patrick van Aanholt here, I've given him an 8, and much like his performances have been in the last sort of 5-6 games, he started to pick up form, and you could argue, other than like Wilfried Zaha before he got injured and Luka Milivojevic, you could argue that Patrick van Aanholt's actually been one of our best players, and certainly he's another scapegoat in the team. People blame him quite a lot and say he can't defend, but actually in the last sort of few games he's been fantastic defensively and offensively, and this game was no different. Now of course, much like the likes of Kelly and Wan-Bissaka, they had their certain player to be up against. For Van Aanholt, it was Jesse Lingard, and we all hate Jesse Lingard because he used to play for Brighton and obviously scored that goal in the FA Cup. So obviously it's going to be quite a hard task to stop a player who we definitely don't want to score, and I thought that Van Aanholt was very lively up against him, and I thought, yes, he was on his toes against Jesse Lingard, but I still thought he'd done a decent job against him. But the main thing about his performance is, yes, he was, much like Wan-Bissaka, was fantastic defensively in terms of blocks and tackles, but the main thing was that absolutely fantastic goal he scored. Obviously you could credit him for the goal in terms of making that fantastic run, timing his run just right so it was onside, and the fact that he powered his shot past David De Gea, and whatever he done to him, whether he looked like he was going to fake shot or he just done the eyes, whatever it was, the fact that he was able to power a shot at the near post past one of the best goalkeepers in the world was of course great to see, and that was of course our second goal. But obviously it was a great free kick from Jeffrey Schlupp in terms of the referee's looking at the ball, so it's fine to take the free kick. The fact that he took it quickly and Van Aanholt was able to capitalise on that, not let the players around him distract him, so he literally ran through on goal. Obviously had that shot, that was of course great to see. So really for me, yes, it was a great through ball from Jeff Schlupp from that free kick, but also it was a great finish. The fact that he put it in near post against one of the, I personally would say, the best goalkeeper currently in the Premier League, but also you could argue in Europe at the minute. So really for me, I thought that really just summed up his performance. But if you're looking at the game as a whole, I thought it was absolutely fantastic in terms of being that attacking threat, but also being good defensively. But for that goal alone is really for me which bumps it up to the next level, hence why I've given him an 8. But overall, just talking about his game as a whole, not necessarily what he was tasked to do, but I thought he was pretty good defending, like I've said already. Most people would criticise him, but I think in this game especially, I thought he just oozed class and actually showed people why he is a crucial asset to the team. Because most people would criticise him for bad defending, but actually, like I've said, in the last few games, he's actually shown that actually he is a pretty good defender, and that he's also quite intelligent and aggressive at the same time. So the fact that he was able to time his run perfectly from Jeffrey Schlupp's free kick just shows the intelligence he's got and the game awareness, and also the fact that he's got that aggression when he has to go on one-on-ones or two-on-ones. Whenever he's in that situation, he's of course got that aggression to obviously get past them, and when he's defending, against the likes of Jesse Lingard, he's got that aggression to shrug them off the ball and of course, clear the danger. But personally for me, another thing I liked about his game was his movement. So the fact that he was able to find space, not necessarily just for his goal, but throughout the whole game in terms of finding space down at left hand side and linking up with Jeffrey Schlupp, that was, really just summarised his overall performance. But this is one thing I saw on the BBS, and I thought this is actually really just summarises his performance. It's just that the goal just really epitomises what he's about. He's an attacking left back, and that goal really just sums up what he is like. He'd run onto a late ball, use his pace to get him behind, and because he's got such a good shooting ability, he can take on a goalkeeper one-on-one and score. So really that goal really just epitomises what he is all about. It's not only obviously the way that he scored, but also the way he drives at the opposition. The fact that he was able to run in behind, run past them, and because he's got that pace was of course great to see, and it is a joy to watch. When we score a goal like that, where United are normally the types of teams who do make goals like that and score goals like that, but the fact that we were basically able to out-trick United was of course great to see and a joy to watch. And like I've said, a top draw finish. Maybe it won't be up there for Palace's goal of the season, but it was much like Andros Townsend's last season, where he literally ran more or less, not necessarily the whole pitch, but Van Aanholt ran about half the length of the pitch and managed to blast in near post. That's surely going to be up there for one of the goal seasons. But personally for me, just to summarise his old performance, a proper technical footballer, and at the moment, because of how consistent he's becoming and the fact that he's obviously proving an asset to us defensively and offensively, at the moment I actually quite like him in the team, and hopefully with the return of Jeffrey Schlupp, that partnership can continue to grow and hopefully be valuable for us in the coming weeks. So Patrick van Aanholt here, the left back, I think an 8 is a fair result. Now to move on to the captain and midfielder Luka Milivojevic, who I am going to give a 7. The Serbian got forward in the middle and picked out Benteke in an early build-up towards the opening goal, under pressure from United trying to work hard with McArthur in the front of the defence. So Luka Milivojevic here, the captain, I've given him a 7, and much like his performances have always been for Palace, this was once again another solid performance with him playing in front of the back four. And once again, although we did concede them 3 goals, I think in the game as a whole, I think he done a relatively good job in terms of giving protection to that back four and being that rock in the midfield. Now, of course, obviously United, with the quality players they've got in midfield, you know, the likes of Matic and Pogba, of course we're going to get overrun in the midfield, and that's why I thought it was quite dangerous playing a 4-4-2. Obviously, it showed that actually a 4-4-2 was a good formation to play, but like I've said already, you know, once we were 2-0 up, we should have brought on some players in the midfield just to pack it out and give help to the likes of MacArthur, because Man United were putting so much pressure on us that, of course, the likes of Luka and MacArthur were basically struggling in the midfield purely because of that constant onslaught from United. But in terms of Luka's performance, you know, we always know him as a defensive midfielder, but quite a lot in the first half he got forward, and especially in the run-up to the goal we scored, the Andros Townsend's goal, he was one of the main creators of that. So I like to call it a pre-assist, because he was the guy who made that run forward, passed the ball to Benteke. Benteke held the ball on, ran a bit across the edge of the box, and then passed it to Andros Townsend to score. So really for me, yes, obviously it was important the fact that Benteke held the ball up and got it to Townsend, but the fact that Milivojevic was able to find Benteke in space so that he could carry the ball and find Townsend was of course great to see as well. And you know, like I've said already, even though he's playing as a defensive midfielder, he's actually got some attributes in terms of his passing and crossing ability that actually are quite important to us when we go forward. So if he can get that balance right between being that solid defensive midfielder and actually going forward and supplying the ball and picking out players like he did with Benteke, that of course would be great to see. Now of course, like I've already mentioned, you know, under that constant pressure from United, he obviously did struggle, and I personally would have liked another midfield player to come in, but I still thought he worked hard. He tried to do something in the game, tried to stop United from getting chances, and I definitely do think he tried hard and worked really well with MacArthur in front of the defence, just to give that little bit of protection. And for the majority of the game, if you take away the 3 goals, arguably you could say actually in the midfield, MacArthur and Milivojevic done an absolutely fantastic job. But in terms of his overall performance, I think that you could say in the first half especially, he absolutely mugged off Pogba in terms of making Pogba look like a £2 million player where he's meant to be, you know, a £100 million player, yet Milivojevic absolutely mugged him off in terms of just outclassing him in that first half. Yes, he was, you know, less good in the second half, but the fact that he was able to perform a lot better than who supposedly is meant to be one of the best midfielders in the world is of course great to see as well. But overall, the thing I really like about his performance, and the main reason I've given him a 7, is the fact that he gives it everything. You know, every game he does this, but in this game especially when we were under pressure against the quality side, the fact that he gave everything and he worked hard to, you know, break down the attacks of United, the fact that he done that was of course great to see. And the only thing I could criticise him for is just the fact that he's got a lack of pace. You know, that's not really something he can change, but it's just something to mention in the fact that when you've got the likes of Lingard, Sanchez, who have got quite a lot of pace in terms of running in behind, when you've got players like that, obviously it's quite difficult if they cut inside to deal with them. So maybe you could say that's a downside of Milivojevic's game. But even though he isn't the fastest player, he isn't slow, but he isn't the fastest, he does make up for that with his tackles and challenges, which once again he done so in this game. So Luka Milivojevic here, the captain, who once again marshalled the team really well. I do think a 7 is a fair result. Now to move on to James MacArthur, who I am going to give a 7. Energetic, terrier-like. He was at it when United were looking for a second goal. So James MacArthur here, there isn't really much to say about his performance, because much like his performances are every week, the job he does basically all the time goes unnoticed. And that's not to say that what he does in the game is not good, it's just the fact that you don't necessarily see what he does in the game, but if you look back at it carefully, actually he's really crucial to the way we play in terms of how much energy he's got in the midfield, and the fact that he puts pressure and actually closes down the opposition's defences. Things like that, yes, people, it doesn't go noticed because people necessarily are not seeing it as a fantastic thing, but I personally do like to pick it out, because I think that the fact that he has that energy and the fact that he closes and chases the defenders down really for me is a really important part of how we play. And the fact that he's out of contract at the end of the season, if he continues with performances like this, I don't see any reason why we couldn't give him a 2-3 year contract, because certainly he does deserve it, because once again what he does, his shifts every game are absolutely fantastic, and much like what I said last week, once again that partnership with Milivojevic did actually work really well. But much like I've talked about with Luka in terms of the second half, Obviously United were at it, they were constantly attacking us, trying to get that goal, which of course would have brought them back into the game and eventually helped them to win that. But I still thought he, even when we were under pressure, he was still looking not only obviously to defend against United, but he was also looking for us to actually go forth and actually get a goal as well. So that's something I liked about his performance. The fact that even though we were back to 2-2, we wouldn't give up and we wouldn't just park the bus and go for a draw. The fact that we were still attacking and still trying to get at least something from the game was of course great to see. But personally for me, I think he worked really hard in the game. Like I said already, terrier-like, the fact that he closes players down. But overall for me, the reason that I didn't give him a 7, or I gave him a 7 as opposed to maybe an 8, which some people arguably could give him, it's just the fact that he had some really good moments in terms of playing defensively. He was making tackles and blocks, and in terms of offensively putting pressure on the back line, so that was good. And maybe there was just a few average moments as well, so a few times where he gave the ball away cheaply, I believe, or even if it's just that he wasn't effective when he got the ball, whatever it was, it's up for debate. But personally for me, he had some really good bits, but the thing that puts it down from an 8 to a 7 is just the fact that he wasn't fantastic in the game. We know how good he can be, but maybe just because of how good the opposition was, he wasn't necessarily given that license to be as creative as he normally is. But personally for me, I do think a 7 is a fair result. Now to move on to Jeffrey Schlupp, who I'm going to give a 7. Playing further forward on the left, not much of note in the first half, but did a job. Better start to the second half when his quickly taken free kick allowed Patrick van Aanholt to race on and score Palace's second of the night, taken off for Riedewald. So Jeffrey Schlupp here, I've given him a 7, and much like the performance of the whole team, once again, it was another fantastic performance from him. And much like what I mentioned with Martin Kelly, he's just come back from injury, so you're not going to expect him to be 100%. But I still thought he put in an absolutely fantastic shift here against United, and ultimately was one of the game changers for us, because I thought that he gave us a little bit more pace, which we of course were missing in the last few games, and that certainly did help us to get, maybe 10, maybe even 12, 13 yards further up the pitch. So that pace that Schlupp brought to the team since coming back from injury obviously showed in this game how important it is. But in terms of his normal position, he's been swapping quite a lot with Van Aanholt and on that left hand side this season. But once again, Van Aanholt, like I've said already, consistently playing good there recently, so he keeps his place. Jeffrey Schlupp moves further forward to that left wing role, which obviously allows Sørloth, who was playing on the left, to play down the middle. And that 4-4-2 formation with two proper wide players and two very tall physical strikers, that system seemed to work for us. But obviously in the first half, even though he was playing quite far forward, didn't really do much of note in that half, purely because most of our attacks came down the opposite wing with the likes of Townsend, Benteke, and obviously Milivojevic setting up the goal we scored. But exactly, as soon as we started the second half, he came out with the right attitude, and rather than just waiting for players to, get into the box so he could whip in that free kick, he saw the run of Patrick van Aanholt and he very cleverly played the ball onto him, very nice through ball, made sure it was just in time so he wasn't offside, so everything was perfect about that. And obviously that quick free kick, so that quick thinking and that accurate through ball obviously allowed Patrick van Aanholt to race through and score Palace's second of the night. Obviously the goal didn't count for anything because we ended up losing 3-2, but the fact that we were able to score a goal, and even though we did lose the game, at least we only lost by 1 goal as opposed to getting beaten. So in that respect, the fact that we scored that goal because of Schlupp's creativity was of course great to see. And obviously it is also good to note, obviously he's been out for quite a lot this season, but this was also his first assist of the season. So Van Aanholt's first goal, but also his first assist of the season. So hopefully with him coming back into the side and actually having that pace, or having that good partnership and using his pace like Van Aanholt, hopefully that partnership can help us to actually attack teams and give us more balance to the side. And hopefully he can get maybe 2-3 more assists towards the end of the season. I don't see any problem why he couldn't get that. So hopefully he can go forth and continue to put in performances like he did here against United in the next few weeks. Now of course towards the end of the game he was taken off for Riedewald. I said that I wanted Riedewald to come on just to pack out the midfield. I certainly was happy with that substitution, but not when it was. I would have liked him to come on much earlier. Not because Schlupp was playing bad, purely because we had to just pack out that midfield, and I would have liked to see Sørloth move that wide in Schlupp's place. But when you consider he's been injured, he hasn't played a full 90 minutes in quite a long time. Personally for me, it's quite understandable really, the fact that he obviously didn't play the full 90 minutes. But, just to summarise really, the main reason I've given him a 7 is that although he only just come back from injury, he looked fit, and obviously, of course, he played well. got that assist for Patrick van Aanholt's goal. And the thing I really liked about his game, much like Wan-Bissaka, who was of course playing at right back, I thought he had nice energy in the game, you know, won the ball quite a lot, which of course is quite important against a possession dominant team like United. And of course, towards the end of the game, you can understand him being tired, but like I've said already, that's probably because he hasn't played in quite a few months. And like I've already mentioned at the beginning, the final point really to end on his performance is the fact that he gave us pace and he gave us that physicality on the wing that we've been missing in the last few weeks. So by him coming back to the side, with us playing a 4-4-2 with 2 wingers with pace and 2 physical strikers, that balance that came to the team, of course, had an impact. And like I've said already, we were missing it in past games, so Jeffrey Stark coming back from injury has of course given us that pace that we've lacked, and hopefully in the next few games, as shown here in the first half, it can help us to punish teams and hopefully help us pick up a few more points. Now to move on to the winger Andros Townsend, who I'm going to give an 8. A lovely first time hit from the edge of the box. Okay, it took a slight deflection to put Palace's head early on in the game from Benteke's pass. Still looked a threat as the game went on into the second half. So Andros Townsend here, I've given him an 8, and much like his performances have been recently, with him getting quite a lot of assists in terms of being our top assister, and the fact that he's just been a constant threat offensively. This was another game here where obviously he was good offensively, but he finally got his reward for that, you know. Yes, it was obviously his goal got deflected, but the fact that he was able to latch onto that pass from Benteke, take one touch, then put it top corner was of course great to see. And you could argue that if it hadn't taken the deflection, it probably would have gone wide. But personally for me, looking back at the replays, the fact that he was able to, you know, almost put it in the top corner without the deflection was of course great to see. But like I've said already, I believe it was either he took a touch and then hit it, or he hit it first time, and I think it was a first time hit. But whatever it was a great strike. Yes, okay, it took a slight deflection, but the fact that he was able to get himself in a position where he's actually quite central so he can take a shot, which is relatively easy, and the fact that he's able to score a goal from outside the box was of course great to see. And once again, credit has to go to Benteke and Milivojevic for actually creating that attack in the first place. And even though in the second half, with that constant onslaught from United, we didn't really get forward as much as we would have liked, but I still thought he looked a threat going into that second half. So personally for me, his second half probably a 7 out of 10 performance, but the fact that his first half performance was so good and he was a constant threat for us, and obviously the fact that he got the goal, is the main reason I've given him an 8. But in terms of just a word to describe his performance, I think we could say lively. The fact that he was all over the place, good energy, and personally for me, that's what you want from a winger. You want a winger who's not only going to get assists, score a few goals and put crosses in, but also you want someone with good energy who can run up players and of course create chances. But one of the things I picked up, and I think Sky Sports as well, you know, looking back at replays, I think they also picked up, is the fact that because Sørloth was playing sort of, or Benteke was playing as sort of your primarily striker. Yes, it was a 4-4-2, but Benteke was the primary striker, and Sørloth was interchanging positions from the left to the right with Benteke. Because of that, that created lots of space down that right hand side because Sørloth was drifting left. Because of that, there was lots of space for Townsend, and that's one of the reasons why Townsend scored the goal, and he scored it like he did, is because Benteke drifted a bit so that he could change positions with Sørloth, and because of that it confused the United defenders, left loads of space, and ultimately that's why Andros Townsend scored, purely because that little bit of movement with the two strikers created that space for Townsend to score. But personally for me, you know, once again, looking online, quite a lot of praise for Townsend's performance. I thought it was absolutely terrific in terms of, yes, getting the goal, but putting in some good balls. Yes, it was with a deflection, but obviously the goal as well. And once again, just showing that incredible engine once again. I've talked about energy already, but the fact that he's got that engine to keep going throughout the game, and, you know, he never seems to lose stamina, that's of course great to see as well. But once again, I think that, I talked about Jeffrey Stark and Van Aanholt linking well on that left hand side, but I also think Aaron Wan-Bissaka was fantastic as well. But I thought to make his performance even better, or what made it better than it even was, I think is the fact that he had that partnership with Townsend as well. So in the next few games, I personally don't see Ward or Fosu-Mensah coming back into the side. So hopefully that partnership they've developed between Townsend and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, hopefully that can develop more over the next few weeks, because actually they both got pace, they both got relatively good crossing ability. So hopefully that combined together with a sort of a consecutive run in the team, hopefully that can help them to develop the partnership even more. Because personally for me, looking back at this game, it worked really well. But Andros Townsend here, do comment below with your views of his performance, you know, what you thought of his goal, whether you do think he would have scored it even if it didn't take a deflection. But personally for me, obviously he scored the goal, had a fantastic engine, put loads of balls into the box and was a good threat for us. So personally for me, I do think an 8 is a fair result. Now to move on to the striker Alexander Sørloth, who I am going to give a 7. Up front in his favoured position on the left, had one shot on target after robbing possession and entering the box, held up the ball well and had another shot dragged wide. His strength was needed in certain situations on the night. So Alexander Sørloth here, I've given him a 7, and much like his performances have been in the last sort of 2 games that he's played, he's actually showing that actually, even though he hasn't scored, he's actually quite a valuable asset to the team, and actually is starting to look like a very clever, very good transfer. Now in terms of obviously his position, the last few games, because we were lacking that pace and we were lacking a left winger, we were playing him out wide. He wasn't necessarily playing great because he was out of position, but he was still doing a shift for the team and actually showing off the attributes he's got in terms of running with the ball, using his physicality to win headers. And I thought, you know, in the Everton game and the Tottenham game, I thought he played really well. And this game was no different, and he's starting to show that actually people criticised the signing, saying that yes, he's scored loads of goals, but would he be up for the Premier League? So far so good, he looks like he's up for the Premier League. And personally for me, seeing the amount of chances he had and the chances he's created, I think it's only a matter of time before he does score. But in this game here, rather than playing on the left wing, he was playing as the left striker. But as I previously mentioned, he did interchange positions with Benteke, which of course did create that space for Andros Townsend to score. Now in terms of a few of the shots he had in the game, you know, he had one shot on target where, once again showing his physicality, he took the ball, he robbed the ball off the Man United defence, ran through a goal, had a shot, obviously on target, but it was easy for David De Gea to save. So once again showing that even though he's very tall, he's actually got that physicality and pace to get in behind the defence and rob them. And obviously he's pretty good in terms of his shots as well, the fact that he's able to get every shot he's had on target. And then obviously there was another one, held up the ball well, once again using that physicality. And yes, he did drag this shot just wide, but the fact that he's able to actually enter the box and get in a position, or get in a shooting position, is of course great to see as well. But personally for me, the one thing I really liked about his performance, you know, yes, he didn't have any impact in terms of getting an assist or one bit of magic, but the main reason I've given him a 7 is just the strength he had in the game, because really, very physical Man United backline. Some could argue that that is actually United's weakest backline, and hence why we probably scored the 2 goals we did. But even though that's probably the case, the fact that they're the weakest defence for United, or the weakest combination, I still thought they're very physical players, and I thought that Sørloth once again matched them, or even went above them in terms of that physicality battle, and I thought he'd done really well. And you know, there were quite a lot of times, especially in the first half when we were playing well, where we needed his strength and his physicality in certain situations, and I thought he'd done a really good job doing that in terms of, you know, creating chances and holding up the ball for Benteke, or Benteke holding up the ball for Sørloth. Just having that overall strength obviously helped us with our game plan. But personally for me, you know, I've seen a lot of praise for him on Twitter, and rightly so. I personally really like him. You know, people were saying, oh, it's a dodgy signing, he's never played in the Premier League, he's not really proven. But from what I've seen so far, I really like him. I think his partnership with Benteke is fantastic. And another thing I like about him is, obviously it brings in another striking option, which is of course great. But the fact that we've got another striker who's got a very good first touch, which is great. And the fact that he's obviously powerful, rather than Benteke who would hold up the ball and pass it to someone. The fact that we've got someone like Sørloth who's almost like a winger, in the fact that he can run past players and use that physicality and power to get chances on goal. The fact that we've got a player who can do that, who complements Benteke really well, is of course great to see. And certainly for me, Roy Hodgson and his scouting team and Steve Parish and co, even though people have criticised him in recent weeks for the transfer window, I think that this could actually turn out to be a pretty good signing. So Alexander Sørloth here, a 7 for him. No direct impact in terms of any of the goals, or didn't get assist in the game, but I still do think the main thing for me is his strength. So the fact that he had the strength in the game, it was one of the things that helped us to get into the game. And although it necessarily didn't help us to win the game, it was still quite a crucial asset to the way we did set up. So Alexander Sørloth here, I think a 7 is a fair result. Now to move on to our final player and striker, Christian Benteke, who I am going to give an 8. Ran at Chris Smalling before spotting Andros Townsend arriving for the open goal. Ran his socks off. Got back to defend when Palace were under pressure. Nearly put Palace back in front for a third with a header which De Gea somehow clawed away from the goal line with a stunning save. So Christian Benteke here, I've given him an 8, and it's very rare that I give him such a high rating, but although people would want to criticise him and use him as a scapegoat for this game, I thought he was absolutely superb in this game and was one of the main reasons why we went ahead within the first 10 minutes or so, purely because he was one of the main architects, let's say, of that chance. But obviously I've talked about the United defence, you know, with Sørloth in terms of it being possibly their weakest combination, but because of that, Benteke took complete advantage of that, once again using his pace, or not necessarily pace, but using that physicality to actually run at Chris Smalling, and because of that, and because he changed positions with Sørloth, he was able to run at Chris Smalling, create the space, and then he spotted Andros Townsend, which of course is great in terms of game awareness. He was able to spot Andros Townsend and once again put a fantastic ball out to Townsend to score the opening goal. And you know, people often criticise him for not running, for being lazy. He didn't do that in this game, and maybe that's because he's in a 4-4-2 formation now. So the fact that he's got a partner with him gives him a little bit more flexibility. He can now run about a bit and change position now, and I think that seems to really have helped his game in terms of giving him a partner there, because obviously A, it makes him less isolated, but B, it actually allows him that space and time to actually, he doesn't necessarily have to be the focal point, so he can drift off and move around and actually, you know, run his socks off to get into different positions. Now obviously he got back to defend obviously when we were under pressure as well, so I think in terms of our defence you could argue that he was probably our best defender in terms of, I believe there was 6 headers he had from corners, which he obviously cleared all the way out the pitch, which shows that yes, he done his contribution offensively with the assist, but also he done his defensive contribution in terms of clearing the danger from corners. And also there was one ball as well where he somehow cleared it off the line. So obviously United had loads of corners towards the end of the game. One got whipped in, and Benteke, you look back at the replays and you look back at the goal line technology, the ball was literally halfway on the line, and Christian Benteke, being on that far post, was able to clear it again. Once again showing that actually he's not necessarily just an offensive contributor, but also he can do his bit defensively as well. And obviously the final thing really to talk about is the header he had. You know, he had one header in the game, which you probably heard in the match report, where he headed over De Gea's goal. There was another one where basically just is evidence for why De Gea is one of the best, or not the best, goalkeeper in the world. You know, great ball in from Wan-Bissaka, I believe it was. Benteke, great connection got on that header. It was going bottom corner, great curl on it, but somehow David De Gea managed to claw it away from the goal line. And once again, like I said, an absolutely stunning save. You know, if we ever needed evidence that De Gea was a fantastic keeper, a world-class keeper, probably the best in the world, that was exactly it. The fact that he was able to get down that low, stretch his arms that big, and actually was able to tip it away and actually get rid of that spinningness, I suppose is the word, but to get rid of that spin that was putting it into the far corner was of course great to see. So although people criticised Benteke, actually in this game he got an assist and almost scored from an absolutely fantastic header from what was obviously a good cross from Wan-Bissaka. But like I've said already, you know, the main reason I've given him an 8 is because he played so well in the game, and if it wasn't for that stunning save from De Gea, people would probably be giving him 9s, purely because he would have got what he deserved, because he ran his socks off, he put in all of this effort into the game, so getting a goal would have just been a reward for his performance overall. But really, just to sum off, you know, sort of summarise his performance, the main reason I've given him an 8, you know, I said he runs his socks off. You could just say he worked his nuts off. You know, he oozed with class on the ball in terms of, you know, holding it up and spreading the ball to the likes of Townsend to score. But also the fact that he's able to actually not necessarily be the centre point of the attacks, but the fact that he's able to get other players involved in the attacks was really great as well. And, you know, like I've said already, really unlucky with the header. Any other keeper saves that, or doesn't save that, and that goes in bottom corner. So once again, just further backs up the point that whenever goalkeepers play against Palace, they always seem to turn into De Gea's or Neuer's and just play absolutely superb against us. But to be honest, obviously loads of people are going to be talking about him. You know, it's another game that he hasn't scored, but he's up there with Andros Townsend. I think he's got 5 assists. So although he's only scored 2 goals this season, he's also got 5 assists as well. So he's sort of doing the reverse. So rather than scoring loads of goals, he's getting loads of assists. So you've also got to consider that before you criticise him. You've got to actually consider the goals he's contributed to. So he's contributed to 7 goals. Yes, he's only scored 2, but actually he's been involved in 7 goals overall. So personally for me, you know, I think an 8 is a fair result. So do comment below what you think of Christian Benteke, and also what you do think of that Alexander Sørloth and Christian Benteke partnership up front. Now to move on to the sub, Riedewald, who I am going to give a 7. Back in the middle of the park to form a 3 with McArthur and Milivojevic, full of running. So Riedewald here, I've given him a 7. You know, there isn't really much to talk about his performance in terms of the fact that he came off the bench quite late in the game, didn't really have that much time to make an impact, but I still thought, playing in the middle of the park, I thought once again, like we've seen in past games, him, McArthur and Milivojevic formed a great partnership, and I personally would have liked to see it earlier, because I would have liked us to have a better control of the midfield like we had towards the end of the game. I would have preferred us to have that when we were 2-0 up, to obviously stop Man United and restrict them in the midfield, but also obviously to hold on to our 2-goal lead. But personally for me, I understood why he was dropped in terms of playing a 4-4-2, and obviously McArthur and Milivojevic I personally think is a more preferred option in terms of a 4-4-2, but I still think he should have come on earlier. But when he came on, I thought he was full of running in terms of picking up the ball, running with it and clearing the danger, and also he was bright as well. So in terms of his passing, breaking up play, that ability to be that defensive midfielder and still be able to pass the ball out from the back was of course great to see as well. So not much to say about his substitution other than the fact that he probably should have come on earlier. But personally for me, another bright performance from the youngster, and I do think 7 is a fair result. Obviously, just to summarise the game, you know, I briefly talked about the game at the beginning, but really for me, I don't think you can criticise Roy Hodgson for the tactics with the starting 11. I thought, yes, it was a 4-4-2, it was a bit open, but it worked a treat in terms of getting us 2-0 up, so I think he got the tactics spot on. But really for me, it's a shame that he can't react when the game's going. So obviously he brought Riedewald on, he saw that there was a problem, brought Riedewald on, and we had more control of the midfield. He should have seen that much earlier when we were getting overrun in the midfield. If he had seen that earlier, we probably wouldn't have gone on to concede the goals, purely because we would have packed the midfield out, which of course would have restricted United's chances. But to be fair to him, we've got such a thin squad, we haven't got that many options. So understandably, if you haven't got enough players, you can't bring loads of players off the bench, because if they get injured, you're left with nothing. So I can understand him leaving it till late, but in this situation, he should use his game management better to identify that we're getting overrun in the midfield, and of course, as a result of that, bring in Riedewald into the team. But really for me, you know, although we did lose the game, and it's, you know, I wouldn't say it's embarrassing, but it's really just heartbreaking the fact that we played so well and then we lose it in the last few minutes. But personally for me, I think there's loads of positives to take in terms that it's a really encouraging performance. It showed that actually we've got the quality to stay in the league. We've now just got to prove that with the performances. But the fact that we've now got that quality and we can actually attack the teams in the top half of the table. Realistically, we never do play well against teams in and around us. But if we perform like we did against United, I'm sure that there are points to be get towards the end of the season. So personally for me, yes, it's a really encouraging performance, but we do really need the points. We need them as quickly as possible, and we do need them badly. So hopefully in the next few games, if we can put in more performances similar to that of which we done against United, hopefully more points are to come. So I'm now going to move on to my Man of the Match award. But before I do that and give you my Man of the Match, and why I thought the biggest influence on the game, I'm now going to give you the 4 nominations I put forward for the award. So obviously the 4 nominations I put forward for the award this week, it was pretty hard to decide who to pick when you consider the whole team performance was really solid, really brilliant, and obviously we were unlucky, well not unlucky, but we were obviously unfortunate to give away our 2-goal lead and eventually lose the game. So really, if you take away the goals we obviously conceded towards the end of the game, overall it was an absolutely fantastic performance and certainly worthy of winning the game, which ultimately we didn't go on to do. But for me, it was quite difficult to pick 4 players, but these are the 4 players I picked. The right back, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, the left back, Patrick van Aanholt, the winger, Andros Townsend, and the striker, Christian Benteke. So I've talked quite a lot in depth over the last 2 weeks about Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but for the second week in a row, it's only his second Premier League debut, or his second Premier League game. He hasn't really got that much experience in terms of playing first team football, but what a 2 games it's been. You know, fantastic last week against Tottenham. Probably, I think he won the Man of the Match shortlist. We won the Man of the Match award that week. Once again here against Man United, just good as opposition. Once again, he was absolutely solid. You know, playing in that right back role, I thought he was, you know, absolutely solid in the tackle. very strong and physical in terms of that battle with the likes of Rashford, Lingard and Young, and also not bad in the air as well. So he's got a bit of height on him, so obviously he used that to his advantage to obviously clear the danger as well. Obviously, whether that be just crossing the ball, whether that be heading it clear, he was able to do that. And another thing I like, much like Fosu, he was very calm and comfortable on the ball, which is what you want to see. So not only was he obviously good defensively, but going forward he was able to provide us with that outlet purely because of the fact that he was very comfortable on the ball. Obviously, Van Aanholt playing on the left back, obviously the opposite side. I thought he was, once again, like Bissaka, was very good defensively. But also the reason he gets on the shortlist is for the goal he scored. You know, he showed great pace, great quick thinking to actually burst through from Jeffrey Stapp's free kick, and also the power and accuracy to hit it near post, past one of the best goalkeepers in the league or the world, whichever way you look at it. The fact that he was able to do that, the fact that he was able to run in behind, have that quick thinking to get on the end of the cross, and still fire it with so much power past the goalkeeper, that was of course great to see. So in terms of that, that's what puts him above everyone else. But much like Bissaka, and you know, he's very similar to Van Aanholt's performance in terms of, yes, they were both good defensively, but obviously they were both also offered something going forward. So Bissaka with his pace and crossing, and obviously Van Aanholt with the goal he scored. Obviously Andros Townsend playing on the wing, obviously he's on the shortlist because he scored Palace's first goal. Once again, great pass from Milivojevic to Benteke, great pass from Benteke. Yes, obviously his goal did take a deflection, but the fact that he was able to get into the space that Benteke and Sørloth left, the fact that he was able to get in behind the defence and curl it in such a way that if it took a deflection it was going to go in anyway, obviously it did. Because of that and because of the skill and the pace he put on it and the spin on it, obviously that's great as well, so that's why he's on the shortlist. But also just for his threat. So although we had the likes of Jeffrey Stapp on the wing, having quite a lot of effect offensively and, you know, impacting the game quite well, I still thought that Andros Townsend was just a bit of a step above in terms of being that constant threat with his pace and with the amount of crosses he put into the area. So for the goal and his attacking threat, that's why I've put him on the shortlist. And obviously Christian Benteke, loads of people will probably question me why I've put him in here, but obviously he got the assist for Townsend's goal, which was fantastic. Obviously, once again, great that he was able to get on the end of the ball from Milivojevic, and the fact that Benteke was able to spread the ball to Townsend to score was of course great to see as well. But also he ran his socks off, so he didn't run out of steam. He kept running down, he kept, you know, chasing down the defenders, try and create space. He was trying to change positions with Sørloth to get space in behind, but also he was holding up the ball and helping other players get involved in the attacks as well. So for me personally, I do think he deserves to be on the shortlist. Most people would probably disagree, but I think we've got to actually look at his performance and, you know, yeah, but basically give him the credit that he does deserve. But basically for me, all of my 4 nominations have had some impact offensively in terms of getting assists, getting goals and putting crosses into the box. And obviously Van Aanholt and Wan-Bissaka in particular, you've got to give credit for them for how good we defended in the first half. But personally for me, I think there's only one standout winner for me, and for the second week running, I'm going to give the man of the match to Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So congratulations, Aaron, for the second week in a row you've got my man of the match. But once again, much like the game against Tottenham, it was a errorless performance, a fantastic performance from you, not only defensively in terms of keeping some of the best attacking players in the league quiet, but also just the pace and that energy and that crossing ability you bring to the side is fantastic to see. And you know, the only reason I've given it to him above the likes of Townsend and Van Aanholt, who scored goals, and Benteke, who got the assist, is purely the fact of how young he is and for his age, how mature he was in playing. And you know, it looked like he looked like he's played Premier League football for years. He didn't look out of place. But also it's just the fact that even though he's young, he's still got that ability to be a very good right back, and he used that to his best of his ability here, you know, making loads of tackles, being strong in the air, and once again being comfortable in the ball. So personally for me, I hope there's more to come from Wan-Bissaka this season, and I personally can see him starting at the weekend against Chelsea. So now you've heard my match report, player rankings and my man of the match. That concludes this week's podcast. Now I've got interviews with Roy Hodgson, Alexander Sørloth and Andros Townsend following the game.
Alex, it was a roller coaster game today. You were able to put into words how you're feeling after that one?
Right now I'm feeling really empty. I think we should have gotten the 3 points today. We were leading 2-0. We should be better defensively, but unfortunately they scored on the chances, but still we could have scored 3 or 4 goals, so it was, yeah, small margins that decided the game today.
It's 2 weeks in a row now, goals right at the end, but putting in good performances against the top sides, I suppose.
Yeah, especially today. I think we were creating a lot of chances. I think in the first 70 minutes we have a really good shape in our defense, and we have good counterattacks. But we should have kept it the whole 90 minutes.
Not often you see two strikers playing up front together like we have with you and Christian. How are you finding that relationship?
I think it was good. We found each other after the first 10 minutes was a little bit shaky, but after that I think we found each other and we use our strengths. We know what we're able to do, and we had some link-up plays, and when I go down he goes in behind and vice versa. So I think we can build on that.
And what did you make of the atmosphere tonight? I mean, it was a typical Premier League game, but how are you finding it here at Sørloth?
I think the fans are amazing. It's the best fans I've been a part of, and they're cheering us. Even if we lose the game, they think about the effort more than the result. I think it's amazing. Of course, we should have given them the 3 points today. So I'm sad about that, but yeah, the fans are amazing.
You've seen Aaron Wan-Bissaka walk off. He won the man of the match, the Palace man of the match today. He's settled in really well, hasn't he, for a young guy on his debut?
Yeah, he's a really good defender, and you can see it in training every day. He's really good defensively. He has long legs. He gets his feet on every ball. I think he's amazing talent.
And finally, Chelsea up on Saturday. Not long now, so a chance to put things right again.
Yeah, I think if we can take some positives from the game today and just keep going, and hopefully we'll create a lot of chances on Stamford Bridge as well, and then we try to keep the clean sheets.
Andros, commiserations. You must still be wondering how that got away from you in the end.
Yeah, obviously we're devastated. Twice in 8 days where we thoroughly deserved at least a point, if not all 3 points, and we've been undone by a bit of quality right at the end. So yeah, I think everyone's devastated in that dressing room.
You started so well, aggressively, positively as a team. What was the thinking? What was the approach going into this game tonight?
I think we know from past experience, Monday night under the lights at Selhurst Park, the fans are going to create an incredible atmosphere, and we knew we had to start fast to keep them on our side. We did just that. We came out second half, another fast start, got a second goal, and I think for 5-10 minutes after that we went a bit ragged, and I think the game got away from us then.
Did you in all honesty feel the game was yours at 2-0?
No, I think you never can be sure, especially playing one of the best sides in the country. You can never be too sure. We knew they had quality in the starting 11 off the bench to change the game. Yeah, so obviously we're gutted, but I think we should have, at 2-0, maybe we should have settled for 2 goals and shut up shop and tried to frustrate them. And I think they scored soon after we scored our second, and then the momentum was with them.
It was an enormous effort from the whole of your team tonight, wasn't it? Do you feel in some ways perhaps that caught up with you just at the end? No,
I think we were still going strong last 10 minutes. De Gea's pulled a world-class save off Christian's header. We had 2 or 3 decent attacks, so I don't think tiredness got to us. I think at the end of the day, one end, their keeper's made a world-class save, and the other end, one of their players has pulled off a world-class strike, and that's the Premier League, unfortunately, and we've been on the receiving end of it tonight.
Big games coming up thick and fast. You've got Chelsea, you've also got Liverpool this month. Surely there are many positives you can take from that 90 minutes out there tonight going into those big games.
Yeah, of course. I think, if anything, we're more confident going against the top sides. We've proved this season and last season during my time here that we can pull off shocks against the top sides, and Saturday evening and Liverpool will be no different, I'm sure. We're going to put on another good show Saturday and hope to pull off another shock.
Roy, commiserations. To finish empty-handed for the second game running here, that must be very, very difficult to take just at the moment.
Yeah, it's a bit of a Groundhog Day moment, I suppose, but once again, I thought the players, they did extremely well. I thought the senior players that we have in the team, they're doing a fantastic job holding the team together, helping the younger or the less experienced ones out as best they can. And the only thing that's disappointing me today or saddened me today, of course, is the fact once again we go away with no points. But I really do think that a performance like that, just as I thought the one against Tottenham deserved something. And at one stage, at 2-0, I thought we were playing quite well at that stage. It looked like we might even get all 3. But you always know with the quality of player that Man United possess and the strength in depth that they have, the changes they can make, you're going to be under a little bit of a cosh even when you're leading by 2-0. But I thought we rode it out, and I was at least expecting to come away with 1 point, and in the end, of course, I come away once again with nothing, which I find very tough. Not on me, but on the players in particular in the club.
Was that the difference in the end, that the sheer quality of the team you're up against? Is that how it got away from you, do you feel?
Well, it got away from us, I suppose, last-minute goal, which was a incredible strike. I didn't think we were that much in danger. Of course, they had a bit more of the ball, but we had some attacks ourselves in that period at 2-2, when I thought, the goalkeeper made a wonderful save from Benteke. We had a couple of other crossing situations, so it wasn't even impossible that we would score the third goal. But when the ball sat up so nicely for Matic, he struck it so well. It's a wonder goal, of course, from that distance, an excellent strike. I suppose people will say worthy of winning a game, but it's harsh when it comes against you, especially seeing as it didn't come from one of their classic goal scorers.
Tell us a little about your tactical approach tonight, an approach that almost achieved a result in this game.
Well, I suppose the approach was to work very hard to make certain that the two front players did a good job trying to drop in on us, drop in on their central midfield players who dropped deep, Matic and McTominay in the first half, to try and keep the team as high as possible of the field and as compact as possible, and of course to make use of any counter-attacking opportunities with the four midfield players and the two forwards trying to play together and put some pressure on the Man United defence. And I think we succeeded in doing that reasonably well, with the limited resources that we have at this moment in time. I think that we certainly took the game to Man United as much as I could expect us to take the game to Man United, and had we drawn the game, I don't think anybody, Jose included, would have said it was a scandal.
Looking at the performance against Tottenham, looking even more so at the performance tonight, what is your message to your players at the moment? Because there's an awful lot of hard work, an awful lot of effort has gone into the last 2 weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good question. I think the message to them's got to be that at the moment, you're going to be very down, because losing in the last minute like that, whatever happens and however you've played, is always very hard to take. But they've got to try and take so many positives from what they did tonight, and take so much credit, I think, for what they did tonight. And you don't want to hear people saying positive or giving you credit when you've come off the field having been beaten in a game where you think you're going to take something from the game. But they've got to understand that it was a cruel blow. It was a cruel blow against Tottenham as well in the 89th minute, and tonight in the 91st minute. They are cruel blows, but we have played against two unbelievably good sides, two very good quality teams, and we've taken them right to the wire. And I think most people would agree that had we got results in those two games, they would have been deserved results. So they've got to think in those terms, and that would be my message. And we've got to hope that the players at the moment who are populating our treatment room get themselves back out on the field and give these players a little bit of help, because at the moment we don't have any strength in depth, and we do need players the like of whom were helping us to some very good results a couple of months ago. We need them back on the field of play and not in the treatment room.
How close are you to having one or two of those big performers back now?
Well, you don't know. That's the problem. I can't say. The players, if they say they're feeling something and they're feeling pain, and we can do nothing about it. And I just must trust them and the medical staff. But I'm rather hoping that, like Wilf Zaha, who is definitely making incredible strides to get back on that field and help us out as soon as possible. I spoke to Ruben Loftus-Cheek today, another very important player for us. We might see him after the Chelsea game. He can't play against Chelsea, but we might see him back with us. We need people of that quality and with that desire to get back on the field and help the team, because it's very, very tough at the moment on the 11 that we've got. Someone asked the other day, why don't you make many changes in your team? Well, it's quite obvious why you don't make many changes, when you don't really have the strength in depth to make changes which will make the team better.
Appreciate your time, Roy.
Oh, great pleasure.
So there you have it. Now you've heard what Roy Hodgson, Alexander Sørloth and Andros Townsend had to say after the game. That concludes this week's podcast for the game against Manchester United. But make sure to comment next week for my post-match review of the game against Chelsea. So thanks for listening, and remember to up the Palace.